Good evening and many thanks for watching KTN News. My name is Dennis Asset and welcome to this edition of Planet Action, #1 premier show that discusses issues to do with climate change, the actions that is to make sure that this place we call home is a better place for us moving forward. If you realize Nairobi is experiencing, pretty much the entire country is experiencing a lot of rain, and that comes forth with flooding that we continue to deal with on a daily basis. What the correlation of these floods and climate change? We have destroyed our environment, but what are some of the solutions that we can put in place to be able to change this? This is the conversation we'll be having here today, making sure that we put our feet forward, plant these trees that will be able to be our shock absorbers moving forward. But that conversation is coming a little bit later. But now, while freight services play a critical role in the global economy, the impacts to the environment in terms of emissions are negative. This sector is responsible for 8% of global greenhouse gas emissions, including emissions from ships, planes, trains, and trucks. A tied sector players want to change. Sophia Ali with his report.
Transport runs the world, with companies and individuals moving everything from perishable goods and products to heavy equipment and raw materials.
Climate change talks continue to top the world headlines. Carbon emission from long-distance trucks cannot be ignored.
At the core of global transportation, freight services, which apparently contribute 11% of global greenhouse gas emissions, majorly driven by trucks and vans that are responsible for 65% of freight emissions, a trend sector players are working to reverse.
We took a positive decision to support the rail, not only because it makes sense for our business, but also because it makes sense for our carbon footprint, not just with cargo movements within Kenya, but across the region. And obviously that resonates well with our customers as well, because it lowers their carbon footprint. So there's a knock-on effect of what we do also has a positive impact on the carbon footprint of our clients.
Globally, transport consumes 30% of energy produced, presenting an ever-growing challenge of emission. Prioritizing of rail and cleaner fuel options such as LPG and biodiesel can reverse the emissions concern.
Our warehouses, 20 years ago, the only option you had was to use a diesel forklift. Today you can use LPG forklifts, but even further than that, you can go to an electric forklift. And as you went around our warehouses, I'm sure you saw that you've got no diesel forklifts operating in the warehouses. We've gone to an LPG mix and an electric forklift mix.
Even though freight volumes continue to grow due to increased global trade, energy efficiency adoptions by the sector is one of the surest ways to reduce global greenhouse emissions by 45% by 2030 and reach the net zero by 2050. Sophia Ali for KTN News.
Thank you, Sophia Ali, for that report. Goes to show some of the environmental degradations that will happen from our day-to-day activities. And now in studio with me to have a conversation around conservation and tree planting is Monari Onchwagi, Executive Director, Silver Oak Mazingira Hub, next to me. And then we have Kini Wakini, filmmaker and environmentalist as well. Karibu sana. And we have Engineer Peter Nduwati Guka from the village to the city. He is an environmentalist as well and big on environment conservation and planting trees. A conversation we are having today. And I'll just start with you, Engineer. Now, when you talk about environment conservation, it is an exercise that you started way back, planting indigenous trees. I mean, what just pushed you to get into this, especially on your retirement age?
Well, tree planting, you start trees, you realize it's a love. Just like you get in love with a lady, you would start planting trees, you start to get in love with them. They are even better than the lady because they never get angry with you. They never displease you. So why don't you want to be in love with something, somebody who never angers you, who never disappoints you, who always makes you happy? So when you start doing tree planting, particularly indigenous trees, you find that you fall in love without you knowing. It becomes a part of your life.
And Wakili, now here's a question where this is your uncle.
Yes.
And his story is so fascinating because it is something you sat back and saw. Uncle is doing this thing that stands out and he enjoys doing it. Like he's so passionate about it.
Yes,
it is one of his greatest loves as we speak right now.
Yeah.
Now, you are a filmmaker, a thespian.
Yes.
What is the correlation between an environmentalist as well? When you sit down to write your scripts and do your thing pretty much, how important is it for you to package this information so that a child and an elderly person gets to understand the importance of planting trees and just being environmental savvy?
First of all, I currently am doing a documentary about, so it's titled Our Planet, Our Future. And so I came to it because of the relationship that I have with my uncle, which started 2 years ago. And you've heard him speak. You know, he's a very lovable person, and you should see him with children. Children love him, and every time he's with children, he will tell stories. He will read his books. He will do all sorts of things. He will even jump and play with them. So, and to the core, he's a very simple guy. So even the documentary that I'm doing currently is really coined on that simplicity. In that, in as much as tree planting, because people think that tree planting is very scientific, it's very technical, it's ideally very simple, because there are very simple aspects to tree planting. It's basically you dig a hole, you plant a tree, you put in manure, you mix it up, and you do it with children. You put water, you put mulch, and then every day you just come and look at it and smile. And we even had a tree planting event yesterday for indigenous trees, inauguration of indigenous trees. So with children. And you should have seen those children in Ngong, and they were very, very happy doing that exercise with us. It was raining heavily, and yet they were outside with Guka. He was drenched, they were drenched. They were happy. So it's all about just making it very simple. And you know, old people tend to be like children. Yes, they tend to be like children.
I will have to ask Guka about that.
No, the simplicity part.
About
the simplicity part. So that is what we are coining it on.
And let me talk to you, Monari. Monari, now, you are a person who works with trees on a daily basis. You have a nursery, and you've gone into these and science about trees and planting it. Pretty much the reason why there is the inaugural tree planting of indigenous trees. So when it comes to growing trees, how simple is it? But then again, how do we involve science to know what tree we plant where?
Thank you so much for this opportunity, Dennis. I would like to say tree planting is as simple as what you see squirrels do. Squirrels plant far more trees than we do. They take a seed that they want to eat and they hide it on the ground. They forget. It eventually grows. That's how simple it is. The problem that we want to make it a bit complicated is because, you know, we want to do things in a systematic way, and you know, we don't want to do it as simple. We don't want to mimic nature in planting trees. So as a person who deals daily with the trees, I understand that we need to include the scientific knowledge on the trees that we are planting. For example, we need to know why we are planting these trees, or rather, why am I growing these trees in the tree nursery, and where am I going to plant them? That is the first question that you should be able to answer effectively for you to be able to do it in the right way, in the scientific way.
And now I come to Engineer Guka from the village to the city. Now, you talk about these trees being something that you love. You are in love with these trees. And the information out there is for a very long time has been, this is a dirty job, especially for the young people. This is something they don't want to get into. But you are in love with this. How do you package that information to get to the young people so that they can as well fall in love with these trees?
I think That's why I'm targeting children, not adults like you. Because for you, soil is that. But for a child, soil is something you play with. So for them to interact with the trees becomes easier. Yesterday I was planting trees. We planted for the two different species in Kemuka Primary School. The children who are members of hockey club heard we are going to plant. They came and they are on holiday. And they, like he said, they were dirty. They needed to see. Once he demonstrated to them that tree planting is not dirty, it is not, and it is not dirty. So the first thing I do is I wear the correct gear. I put on an overall. An overall is not just for laborers. It's like you with your suit. You have come with a suit so that you are.
It is my overall.
This is your overall. When I go to site, I'm an engineer, I put on a cap, a safety cap. I put on a reflective jacket, you saw them there. So the same case, when you go to the shamba and to plant and grow trees, put on the right gear, put on gumboots, put on an overall, and then enjoy the soil the way you used to enjoy when you were a child. How come it was not dirty when you were a child, but now when you are an adult it is dirty? Answer me that one.
I will come to Akinyen. Let's try to answer that question. Yeah. Okay. Now here are very important aspects that that engineer puts forth in terms of the people that he targets children because it is easier to mold them from that age. Now, you and I fall in the same demography. We are people who we want to always be on TikTok. We want to trend Instagram. We want to take these good photos and everything. Yeah. Then how do you want to package now these documentaries so that it appeals to everyone across board? So that when I watch your documentary, when you package this information for the masses out there, it is sending a message that it is not only fun to get involved in tree planting, but it is an exercise that helps us get back our world, get back our societies to where they used to be. Because as we speak right now, we are beyond 0.5 degrees, which is the global threshold. That's so true. How do you package these to make sense to the TikTokers?
Well, so how I package it is basically, because we've had various conversations with, when we are doing the documentary. So with the different conversations comes in, so maybe we're digging a hole and then Ruka tells me, you know, you're even losing some weight, because of that djembe. And you can literally see us sweating together. And he tells me I'm shedding off some weight, you know. So it's not only the fact that you are planting a tree for other people, you're also doing it for you, because there's a lot of pleasure in that. Yes, you're going to get tired, but do you know what? At night you're going to sleep happier. That is a fact. I didn't know that until the first time I planted trees, and the first time I went to his house and the greeting was here, gumboots. I'm like, wait, what? You're giving me gumboots? Yes. And he sent me to the shamba and we planted so many trees. And there's also pleasure in seeing what you planted. I wake up every morning at my age, the TikTok age, and I live for waking up in the morning and going to see the trees that I've planted gain an inch. And you see, that's life. Every day you wake up, you need to see something that you've done grow. If you cannot do that, really, what are you doing? Even on your TikTok, when you post something, the next day you want to see your likes have grown. It's the same, it's basically the same essence. Yes.
Monare.
Yes. Can I add to that? Don't go to the gym. Come and plant the tree with me. You save money and you get healthier when you plant a tree.
Okay. Monare. Don't go to the gym, plant the tree. You've planted many trees over the years. Does that explain the weight situation?
Yeah.
Yeah, but now let's fall in love with these trees. Yeah. Now the president even gave us a holiday to go plant trees because it is something that is dear to his heart. Yeah. He says he wants to plant around 15 billion trees by the year 2032. Now, as a scientist, as an environmentalist in this space, how do we then sell this message so that as a common Kenyan, right now there is a campaign, plant your age. If you're 30, plant 30 trees. If you're 50, you plant 50 trees. Now, how do we sell this message to the young people? How do we involve them from schools to campuses to even guys who are working in their offices to plant these to them, fall in love with them?
Thank you. I think the best way to pass this message across is to first look at the problem. Many people tend to look, to associate with something when they see the effect. For example, if you have your phone, you'd rather not lose the phone that you have than get a new one. So if I come and tell you, I can get you a new phone today, but I want to take this one, mine is not guaranteed. It's the same message that people are trying to pass across, that they're exploring planet Mars and so on. You would rather, when you tell the people that you'd rather not lose the planet that you have than to go to Mars, this is much better and easier to do. That information gets to sink more into people. But that, just as my colleagues have said, it's important to package this information, especially to the children. That's why we started learning in school when we were children. And I always say this whole issue, and the president is doing it right, this whole issue of tree planting and environmental conservation, if we were taught this in school, most of us are products of a free primary education, more than 20 years. If most of us were taught about this in school, then we would have all citizens responsible, and we won't be talking about pushing people to plant trees.
Now, Guka, allow me to call you that.
I'm very happy to be called.
Yeah. So now, when we talk about tree planting, you live in an area that, in this city as we speak, is considered to be one of the areas that has quality of life because of the air there, that is around Ngong Karen area. And this is because of the trees that do exist there, because of the forest that is next there. And it is true that when you go to those areas, you feel like, yo, this is different from where it is I'm coming from. And this is pretty much the message that we want to sell out there, that trees is equal to life. Nairobi, whenever it rains, you start asking yourself, where am I stepping? Simply because we don't have buffer zones. We've cut down all trees because of development and all that. Therefore, you started doing this for a very long time. What are some of the advantages that you've seen with trees that you've planted? What change have you seen literally in your life?
There's nothing better than tomorrow I'm going to Buruburu to see the trees I planted 40 years ago. When I pass there, I see the children play in the shade. I don't live there anymore, but it gives me joy. So the beauty with trees is that you don't grow them for yourself. And the greatest joy and gift in life is when you do things for others. It's not when you do it for yourself. So when I plant the trees, I'm not planting them for myself. No. I'm planting them for you. When you pass there, you get the shade. I'm planting it for the birds, which you come and nest there. I'm planting it for the butterflies. So when you see yourself as a trustee and not an owner, then there is joy. I will give you an example. Last year, one of my neighbors started to cut the trees when they were building. I got telephone calls as the chairman of the association. Why is that man cutting trees? He came to Karen because of the trees. So I went to confront him. I said, Judge, you can't be cutting trees if you can relocate the house. This judge is a judge of an environmental court. Totally ignorant.
Let's not go into names, but yeah.
No names. No names. It means that we have not expanded the value of that education even to the to the people who are actually most informed. So we need to actually pass it down. We are not naming names, but that shows the level of ignorance as to the value of trees, because most people see them as individual possessions. I'll cut and get timber. And yet, timber is the least important product of a tree. Timber is the least important product of a tree, because once you get the timber, the tree is dead. All the other benefits you are getting are no longer there. So once you start really associating with the trees, then you start to get all these values. Then you start to own them because you love them, because they have life, just like other creations.
Okay.
Yes.
Your uncle is a very sentimental person. He's very passionate when it comes to matters about trees.
He truly is.
And this is something that you saw, you fell in love with. I know your story. At some point, you had to move houses because you're living in a concrete jungle.
Yes.
But this is a situation that you've seen someone do something great that has impacted upon your life.
Yeah.
And you've picked that up and even taken it to pretty much your moneymaker, into you as a thespian, you as a creative. And you're coming up with a situation that is selling these to the masses that don't have this information.
Yeah.
When you get out, what is the reception to your products?
You know, I first started posting TikTok videos about 2 years ago about my journey planting trees. And people were skeptical because they were like, oh, wait, Wakeni, you're now planting trees? You know, they didn't quite understand it. But then, at some point, I started gaining traction because you'll see my friends, when they see some trees, they'll take photos and send them to me. They see people littering on the road, they'll take videos and send that to me. I'm like, what are people doing? You know, you need to document this, you need to do this. So such things are what actually drive me, and I'm really thankful for the journey that I've been through, because if it wasn't for him, if it wasn't for this passionate person here, this powerhouse, I keep on calling him a powerhouse. If it wasn't for this powerhouse, honestly, truth be told, I would not be making my documentary. I would love my my environment, because I did, but it was not intentional. And right now it is intentional. And the moment that I really just want to put it out there. Yes.
Now, I come to you, Monari, because we're running out of time. But in terms of these trees, how does someone know what tree to plant where? Because we can't just plant any tree anywhere. We need to know what is great where. How do I get to you?
We as an organization, Silva Okumazingira, we try as much as possible to work with the government, and I'm glad that they've tried to provide data on the distribution across the country. So when you go to the Kenya Forest Research Institute, for example, they can give you data on which trees are available where, or which tree can be able to survive somewhere. So as for us, that's the data that we use to propagate those species, then we provide to people in those areas.
Okay. That is Monari Onchwangi, Executive Director, Silva Okumazingira, and Engineer Peter Ndwati, environmentalist, Guka from the village to the city. A very job well done. And Kini Wakinia, filmmaker, thespian, and environmentalist. Definitely this conversation must continue. I'm hoping these trees are for me to plant. Yes, these plants are for the standard, courtesy of Guka and the team. And yes, indeed, this conversation must continue. Environment is for you and I to take care of. But now let's take a short commercial break. We will be back to just hear the voice of the children with regard to climate change. See you in a few.